Welcome back to Investing Talk podcast.
Good to be here.
Today, we're looking closely at Leggett Platt. Quite a history there, right? Back to 1883.
That's right, a long-standing company. And you've pulled together quite a bit on them.
Yeah, we've got info covering, well, everything from their recent Q1 2025 numbers to strategic stuff like selling off their aerospace group.
And market sentiment, too, how people are feeling about them, plus where they sit in the industry. Bedding, furniture, flooring, textiles, even automotive seating, a bit of everything.
Our goal here is really just to cut through the noise, give you a clear picture of what's actually going on with this diversified manufacturer.
And what really catches the eye first off is that stock price jump.
Exactly. Almost 29% after the Q1 earnings. So yeah, let's unpack that surge, what's driving it, and maybe more importantly, what does it mean for the future?
Okay, so to get started, maybe a quick overview.
Good idea. Leggett Platt, they operate in three main segments: residential bedding, then furniture, flooring, textiles, and specialized products.
And they're global. 135 facilities, 18 countries. That's a big footprint.
Huge. Key products are things like, mattress springs, automotive seat supports, steel rod, wire products. Pretty diverse stuff.
So what are the initial thoughts on a portfolio like that? Strengths, weaknesses?
Well, the diversification itself, that's often seen as a strength, isn't it? Spreads the risk.
It certainly can be. If one area, say housing, slows down and hits bedding, maybe automotive is doing better or their industrial products, it smooths things out.
But the flip side.
Complexity. It takes a lot to manage such different businesses effectively. You risk maybe not being the absolute best in any single area because your focus and resources are split. That classic jack of all trades.
Master of none. Okay, makes sense. It offers stability, maybe, but perhaps not the explosive growth a more focused company might see.
Precisely. So let's look at those recent financials. Q1 2025.
Right. Revenue came in at $1.02 billion. That was actually below the forecast, which was $1.07 billion.
A miss there. And down year over year.
Yeah, 7% decline compared to last year. That seems to reflect the broader industry challenges, like reduced demand for mattresses in the U.S.
That's a key point. The revenue miss shows they are feeling the pressure in core markets. Diversification helps, but doesn't make them immune.
Okay, but here's the twist. Adjusted earnings per share, the profit per share came in at $0.24.
And the forecast was?
$0.22. So they beat on earnings.
Interesting. So revenue down, but profit per share up relative to expectations. What about EBIT?
$67 million adjusted. So we've got this kind of red flag of falling revenue against a strength of better margins, looks like through cost discipline. What's the takeaway there?
It tells you management is pulling the levers they can control, mainly costs. They're focusing hard on operational efficiency, squeezing out expenses, and that's clearly working on the bottom line, at least for now.
There's always a but, isn't there?
Well, relying only on cost cutting, that's usually not a great long-term growth plan. You typically need the top line, the revenue, to grow eventually too. So the earnings beat is good news, shows effective management in a tough spot.
Okay.
But that revenue trend, that's something you've got to watch closely. Aggressive cost cuts can sometimes hurt future growth if you underinvest.
Right. Underinvest in R&D or marketing or talent. It's a balancing act.
Definitely.
And that earnings beat, despite the revenue miss, that seems to be what lit a fire under the stock price.
Looks like it.
Shares jumped almost 29%, closed at $7.27 on April 30th. Another source said 22% or so on the 29th. Point is, big jump. Why would the market react so positively when revenue is actually falling?
Market psychology can be tricky, especially short-term. An earnings beat, even with lower revenue, often signals that management is executing well on what they can control.
Like costs.
Exactly. It suggests resilience, efficiency, especially when the overall economy or sector is challenging. The market might think, okay, they're managing through this tough period effectively.
And maybe looking ahead.
Possibly. Anticipating that these cost savings will flow through even more strongly later, maybe outweighing the current revenue worries for now. It's that weathering the storm narrative. Shows management is proactive.
Okay. And adding to that optimism, it seems, was this strategic move, the divestiture.
Ah, yes, the Aerospace Products Group sale.
Sold to Tinicum for $285 million. Expected proceeds after tax, about $240 million. How big a deal is this for Leggett & Platt overall?
Well, $240 million is. It's a noticeable chunk of cash. We don't have the specific financials for just the aerospace part, but it signals a clear strategic decision.
To do what?
To focus. Likely concentrate more on their core businesses, bedding, furniture components, those specialized products. They can use that cash to pay down debt, reinvest in those core areas, maybe even return some to shareholders. It's a meaningful move to reshape the portfolio.
So refining the portfolio, what's the likely thinking behind doubling down on those other core segments? Why sell aerospace?
Probably a calculation about where they see the best long-term growth or where they have the strongest competitive advantages. Maybe aerospace just didn't fit as neatly or needed different kinds of investment.
Makes sense. Streamlining lets them maybe improve focus, efficiency, get better returns in betting or automotive or whatever they see as primary.
That would be the goal.
And that $240 million, we mentioned debt reduction, reinvestment, any other potential uses or implications?
It also just gives them more flexibility, a bigger cushion, especially if demand stays soft or costs remain volatile. It's a buffer. And, maybe keeps the door open for smaller bolt-on acquisitions in their core areas if the right opportunity pops up.
Okay, let's pivot to the future outlook, the guidance they gave.
What are they projecting?
For the full year 2025, sales between $4.0 and $4.3 billion. That's actually a decline of 2% to 9% compared to last year.
So they expect the revenue challenges to continue.
Seems so, but adjusted EPS guidance is $1 to $1.20 for the year. Given the Q1 beat, what does this overall guidance tell us?
It suggests they expect those headwinds on the sales side to persist through 2025, maybe easing a bit later in the year. But the EPS range shows confidence they can maintain, maybe even improve, profitability despite lower sales.
How?
Again, it points back to that strong focus on cost management offsetting the sales decline.
Got it. Now, catalysts mentioned are potential benefits from restructuring, maybe kicking in late 2025. Risks include, well, the usual suspects, continued softness in US-EU housing markets.
Which directly hits their bedding and furniture sales.
Right. And commodity price volatility, especially steel, which is a big input for them. How do those risks specifically play out for Leggett?
The restructuring is about becoming leaner, more efficient. If successful, that should boost profits later. But the housing market weakness, that's a direct hit to demand.
Yeah.
Fewer houses being built or sold means fewer mattresses, sofas, chairs needed.
And steel prices.
Big input cost. If steel prices jump and they can't pass that increase on to customers quickly or fully, it squeezes their margins directly. That's a constant pressure point for them.
Okay, let's talk competition. Sources mention folks like Tempur Sealy in bedding components, Adient in automotive seating.
Right, though Leggett's more on the component side like springs, while Tempur Sealy is big in finished mattresses.
And strategy-wise, Leggett is known as a market leader in springs focused on cost efficiency. Tempur Sealy, more premium products.
That's a key distinction. Leggett's diversified cost-focused model gives stability, like we said. But it might mean they miss out on some of the higher growth, higher margin opportunities in the premium end where Tempur Sealy plays.
So what are the trade-offs there?
It's stability versus potentially higher but maybe more volatile growth in profits. Leggett bets on volume and efficiency in perhaps slower growing segments. Tempur Sealy bets on brand, innovation, and pricing power in a more discretionary category. Your view on which strategy is better really depends on your outlook for the economy and consumer spending.
Interesting contrast. So wrapping things up, the overall market sentiment seems cautiously optimistic, driven by that EPS beat and the divestiture.
Seems fair.
But the recommendation summary is hold with caution. Why the caution, despite the stock pop?
Because the underlying fundamentals are still a bit shaky. The revenue decline is real. Relying heavily on cost cuts isn't a long-term growth engine by itself. So the hold says, okay, things look a bit better short-term, but let's not get carried away. There are still significant challenges in their main markets.
Makes sense. The recommendation also suggests watching Q2 guidance for signs of stabilization before, jumping in. What specific signs should you look for?
You'd want to see that revenue trend flatten out, ideally. Maybe even tick up slightly compared to last year. Or at least see their forecast for the rest of the year improve, suggesting they see market conditions getting better.
And management commentary.
Absolutely. Any hints from them about demand firming up in bedding or furniture would be a positive signal to look for. Are orders picking up? That kind of thing.
Okay, so bringing it all together, Leggett & Platt is working through a tough patch. Revenue is down, especially in areas like bedding.
But they managed to beat earnings expectations in Q1, mainly through cost control, and they made that strategic move selling off aerospace. That definitely boosted sentiment and the stock price.
Their guidance for the full year shows they still expect challenges, but think they can manage profits.
Right. But that hold with caution highlights the ongoing risks, housing markets, commodity costs, and those bigger structural issues. And that contrast with competitors like Tempur Sealy, cost versus premium, is definitely something to keep watching.
So it really leaves you with a question, doesn't it? How do you weigh these short-term positives, the earnings beat, the divestment cash against the longer-term industry trends, and the risks still out there for a company like Leggett Platt?
It's a real balancing act. Requires digging into all the details and forming your own judgment.
Absolutely. Well, if you found this analysis valuable, please do subscribe, like, and maybe leave a comment. We always want to cover the companies and topics that matter most to you.
Thanks for tuning in.